Introducing the Perimenopause podcast, a show dedicated to unraveling the mysteries of achieving optimal health naturally as you transition into perimenopause and menopause. Get ready to join your host, Dr. Seth Yates, an experienced naturopathic doctor, acupuncturist, and kinesiologist, as he shares his wealth of knowledge acquired from over 40,000 patient visits and 15 years in working with perimenopausal females. Welcome to the Perimenopause podcast.
Hey, this is Doc Yates, and welcome to the Perimenopause podcast, brought to you by perimenobliss.com and abahealth.us. And today, for my perimenopausal listeners, I want to talk about how to unlock your metabolism to get your energy back and to get things moving. Because a lot of the times when you're going through perimenopause and menopause, all of a sudden everything starts to feel very stagnant. And part of that is because your metabolism can be slowing down. And there's reasons for that you can address and you do have control over. And I want to dive into that today. So, because typically they don't do anything besides tell you, well, it's just part of getting older and there's really nothing you can do. Maybe they tell you to exercise a bit more, but there's a lot more to it than that. So let's dive into it. We got 6 points we're going to go through, one at a time, starting with the obvious one that you already knew I was going to discuss, hormones. Estrogen balance and progesterone balance plays a very big role in your metabolism. It plays a role in how you burn fat. It plays a role in how your body uses insulin, which affects how much fat you're storing. I'm just beating a dead horse at this point, but you have to balance your hormones. It makes a huge difference. In perimenopause, typically, what you're looking at is the progesterone levels, as they've taken a little bit of a nosedive, and then the estrogen levels generally most of the times are okay, sometimes slightly high, sometimes slightly low, but generally okay. But either way, you're going to figure that out. That part you can tell pretty quick just from symptoms, and we've discussed that a lot in previous podcasts. The next big point number 2 for unlocking your metabolism, your thyroid. Thyroid plays a huge role in energy and metabolism, and so much so that clients that I've seen where literally I feel like they've almost been starving themselves trying to lose weight and working out so hard, but when it turns out that their thyroid is off, nothing's moving. So you have to make sure that the thyroid is functioning optimally. If it's not, well, there's a few things you want to consider. One, do you have the symptoms of low thyroid? Now keep in mind the symptoms of low thyroid can overlap with a lot of things. So for instance, if you're like, oh, I'm tired, so therefore I'm probably low thyroid, it's not quite as simple as that. But if you're tired, difficulty losing weight, you're starting to see thinning on the outside of your eyebrows, your nails are brittle, your hair's drying out. Now we're starting to, you're extra sensitive to cold, and you have a family history of low thyroid. That's, to me, it is the biggest. Like if you have a family history, and your mom and your aunts, and guess what? All around that same time frame, same age, they start getting thyroid issues. You better make sure you get your thyroid checked. If it's way off, then you can use things like desiccated thyroid to correct it. If it's in the range, but just, but not optimal, then you want to make sure you're doing things to support the thyroid. So selenium, iodine, zinc, some B vitamins, and to keep in mind, you should be able to get all of this in 1 or 2 products combined, like in combo formulas. You don't want to buy all these things individually. You could even just get like a good thyroid support formula, which would have herbs like rhodiola, Google built into it, not the search engine, but an actual herb called Google. And then they would have the iodine, selenium, everything built into one. That's the easiest way to do it. Get a combination formula supporting the thyroid. Point number 3 to unlock your metabolism: exercise and muscle mass. Now, this is the one where I feel like everybody already knows this, and a lot of people are already doing this, and they're exercising a lot, and they're not getting anywhere. The thing is, if you don't have the hormones balanced, if you don't have the thyroid and the other things corrected, you won't get the results just from doing the exercise and building up your muscle mass. But it doesn't mean that you stop it. I understand how frustrating it can be to do the exercise and not see the results, but you still have to maintain doing the exercise while we're getting these other things corrected. Now that you know that you're just missing a few of the keys to fully unlock this door, it doesn't mean you stop the other one, but I do understand how frustrating that can be. So keep going with the exercise. Keep going with building lean muscle mass. You have to maintain that and then continue to correct the hormones, thyroid, and etc. Which takes us to the next point, is your diet. A high sugar diet is absolutely brutal for your metabolism. So you want to stick to lower sugars. And I'm not going to say like you have to go mega protein and mega high fat, but you want to make sure you're getting some protein with each meal. This will help with lean muscle mass. It'll help too much sugar, which is going to help prevent these whole insulin spikes. So low sugar. And I don't mean just low sugar as in, oh, I don't put sugar in my coffee anymore and now I'm on a low sugar diet. I mean low sugar, like you're cutting out white flours, you're cutting out sugar, you're getting used to the fact that fruit is actually sweet and that can be a sugar instead of having to use all of these sugars and sweeteners. So low sugar, high protein, and lots of green veggies for fiber would be very important for this. The next thing, detoxification. Detoxification. When the body needs detoxification, it always runs cold. So now I want to dive into something called Wilson's temperature syndrome. Now, it is controversial, but I feel like the controversy is more based on the way it's treated as opposed to the concept of it. Basically speaking, your body should be running at a certain temperature, and the lower it is from that temperature, the lower your metabolism is. In Celsius, here in Canada, it's 37. In the States, for Fahrenheit, I believe 98.6 is the conversion. You should be running at that. And if you're all of a sudden realize that when you're doing your testing, you can take a thermometer, stick it in your mouth when you wake up, and then you can do it a couple times throughout the day to kind of determine your average, because it does change a bit throughout the day. So you would never want to base an entire treatment on single readings. But if you're consistently running low, I mean like a degree below what you should be, chances are your metabolism is low. And the controversial part about this is that the way they would treat it is that they would treat everything with thyroid hormone. So they would treat everything with T3, which is a very, very active thyroid hormone. And they were getting good results with it, but some people, they push them too far, which can be hard for your heart. So while I wouldn't suggest that, I would suggest the fact that it's still a good indicator that your body needs to get its metabolism built back up. And some of the things that slow down your metabolism and slow down these enzyme pathways that plays a role in your metabolism and your temperature is to do detoxification. So detoxifying would be very important. There's herbs you can use for detoxification. Another thing that you can consider when you're doing detox, and this is something that's really big in Chinese medicine. In Chinese medicine, they talk about yin and yang. Generally speaking, there's a lot of times that when people are cold all the time, and a lot of symptoms that kind of would actually suggest like low thyroid, like you're cold, you're sensitive to cold, your metabolism's low. They would call this a deficiency in yang. So if you had all of those symptoms, plus you knew that you had to detox, you could put that all together in one formula. So you could use herbs like epimedium built into your formula, you could put some cinnamon extract built into your formula, and then combine that with some of the detoxification herbs that aren't too cooling, and have that all built into one. So the point is, detox is important. It can help play a role in your metabolism and getting your body temperature back, which really is a measurement, something you can do to help measure your metabolism. Which takes us exactly to number 6, hydrotherapy. Hydrotherapy is literally all about circulation, metabolism, and detoxification. So it kind of addresses point number 5 at the same time. So you're probably familiar with some forms of hydrotherapy. For instance, if you've ever been to any of those Scandinavian spas where you go into the saunas or steam rooms, and then you go into a cold tub, and then you go into a hot tub. These are all things to help improve your circulation, improve your immune function, improve your detoxification. They're very effective. However, when it comes to improving your metabolism, there are forms of hydrotherapy which are a little less enjoyable, but they're more effective for boosting your metabolism. So For instance, a sauna is a hot hydrotherapy. Cold water is a cold hydrotherapy. Very obvious points. Thanks, Doc Yates. But now we want to talk about something that's called a heating hydrotherapy. And what a heating hydrotherapy does, as opposed to giving you heat from the outside, is that it forces your body to create the heat. An example. This would be an example that I've used for patients quite a bit. They call it the warming socks. So let me explain the concept, and then we'll explain how you can use this in other forms of hydrotherapy. The warming socks, so let's say you're congested and you've got a lot of, like, you're starting to get sick, you're congested, and you need to get that, you can't sleep because you're all congested. Yet at the same time, your body's starting to get slightly feverish. Now, naturopathic, we realize that fever, when within reason, is the body's immune response to fighting off bacteria and viruses. So rather than just trying to take Tylenol or something to suppress it, we often work to support it. The problem is that fever can be really disruptive to sleep, and sleep is also very important. So we use something called the warming socks. Let me explain. You take a thin pair of cotton socks. You put them in freezing cold water. This is already sounding terrible, I know, but it works. You put them in freezing cold water. Then you wring them out really, really, really well. You put them onto your feet, and then you put on a thick pair of wool socks, you put on your pajamas, and you go to bed. Sounds not appealing. Works consistently very well. What will happen is that the body will now sense that your feet are cold, and it will start sending heat and blood down towards your feet. So all that heat and congestion from a mild fever that's affecting you, and usually up in your head and chest, which is irritating you, making you so you can't sleep, it moves down to your feet. So your temperature still remains warm, but you're a lot more comfortable, and you will right away, it makes a big difference. People just fall asleep. The interesting part is that you'll wake up in the night, you'll probably feel even warmer, and then when you wake up in the morning, the socks will be bone dry. You hung them out on the clothesline on a sunny day, and they're not just dry, they almost feel like crispy dry. Your body, as long as those socks are damp, will keep sending body heat down there so much until it dries it all the way out. It's actually kind of crazy. For this particular therapy, I've seen it work amazing for kids with fevers, kids with, when they're really little and they get those kind of toothache fevers. It works amazing. I remember for my son, it was like, cry, put the socks on, instant, fall asleep. But now that we're still talking about perimenopause here, we're not talking about teething children. There is yet a better form of hydrotherapy, which is much less well known, and it's called constitutional hydrotherapy. So constitutional hydrotherapy is using these applications of hot and cold towels. So you're putting heat over the abdomen and over the organs of detoxification. And while you're doing that, you're using some electrical TENS to stimulate the nerves to the organs of detoxification, to your digestive tract, to your liver. So you're stimulating the liver, you're stimulating the organs, you're putting heat over it to stimulate blood flow, and then you put a cold towel on, and you leave that cold towel on until your body heats it up. So the whole process, front and back, takes about an hour, and it makes a huge difference. You can measure someone's increase in temperature before and after the treatment, and it goes up right away. And especially too, if you're someone who has a sluggish digestive tract, which is also kind of a sign of slower metabolism, it will speed that up. I've seen many cases of constipation when I was a student, before I knew much about prescribing any herbs or anything like that, and it would correct it with just doing this therapy. So constitutional hydrotherapy. It's one of those therapies when you're getting it done, you're like, wow, does this ever feel like a waste of time? But in terms of the actual effect from an in-clinic therapy, it's probably the best. And I would definitely, I would stand by that. It's probably the best overall detox therapy that you can have for immune system and detoxification that you can get within a naturopathic clinic. Though nobody does it because clients are always getting it and wondering what the heck is going on. It just seems so weird. Okay. So Just to review, how to unlock your metabolism: hormone balance, thyroid balance, exercise and building muscle mass, diet of less sugar, more protein, detoxification, and using herbs to support like yang therapy, building that all in one, and lastly, hydrotherapy to help improve your body temperature, detoxification, and metabolism. Boom. I hope this was helpful. This is Doc Yates signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to the Perimenopause podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and visit Perimenopause.com for more valuable information on how you can thrive during your transition through perimenopause. Join our community of like-minded women who are dedicated to achieving optimal health naturally, and stay up to date with the latest tips, tricks, and advice from Dr. Seth Yates. And we'll catch you on the next episode of the Perimenopause podcast.